today's movement comparison is gonna be barbell squats versus belt squats. So this is actually gonna be a very, very interesting one because the movements are so similar for the lower body, but so different for the rest of the body. And I think that that's actually gonna be where they have their separation and where they have their different utility in a program. So barbell squats should be pretty familiar for most people. There are obviously different ways to perform a barbell squat with different biases and different foci, but the main thing that we're gonna be looking at with a barbell squat is the fact that it is sitting on our shoulders. It's gonna be axially loaded, so it's gonna be stressing our low back, and there is gonna be a unstable and mobility requirement there because, again, this is gonna be a barbell movement versus a belt squat, which is a machine movement. It's very controlled. So first thing, and I typically would not be taking a bar out of a rack facing this way, but just for the sake of this, it's gonna be a little bit easier to see. So getting under the bar, making sure that the J hooks are right below where your standing lockout position would be, unracking it with your quads and hips under you, making sure you're not hyperextending out. Feet should be right under. You're gonna walk out, typically we'll walk back. Taking your squat stance here, big thing, making sure that your abs are braced, your hips are under you, and your shoulders are right over your hips. So you don't wanna be starting your squat pattern like this, and be starting from a nice stable base. And then you perform your reps here. Ooh, that was a nice pop. And everyone's biomechanics is gonna be extremely different. So you'll see me kind of folding over at the bottom. It looks like I might be using a little bit too much low back, but in general, I have longer femurs, so my mechanics are just a tad different from someone who might have short femurs and a little, more natural squat pattern. Mine isn't super natural. So here, and just walking back into the rack, making sure that you don't lose any fingers. So very simple demo there of the barbell squat. Now we can go over to a belt squat. And not every gym is going to have a belt squat, so this is going to be a pretty specific piece of equipment. And even within that, not every gym will have a good belt squat. So this is a pit shark. Pit sharks are not cable driven, so this is going to be ball bearing, and it's going to be on a hinge. So you're not having to worry about the friction from a cable. Typically, these are a little bit better. But the big component here with belt squats is that there's not a loading of the low back. So this makes it a completely different movement pattern than a barbell squat in a lot of ways. Because a barbell squat is much more of a full body movement, because it does have the bar on the shoulders, it is really taxing the erectors, low back, shoulders, lats, even arms in a lot of ways. The belt squat is pretty strictly a lower body movement. The only thing that your upper body is doing is holding on for stability. So the setup is gonna be different depending on what type of machine that you're using, but in general, it's gonna be pretty similar. You're gonna take your normal squat stance, you're gonna use your upper body for balance. Here, I'm just gonna be holding onto these pegs. Sometimes you're gonna be holding on to something more like a rack. But as you're squatting, you wanna make sure that your actual execution is similar to the barbell. So from that vantage point, probably not gonna see too many differences. But while I was performing it, I can feel the differences because with the barbell on my back, my shoulders were really struggling to get in position. My mobility kind of challenged, my wrists were not feeling great, my elbows not even feeling great from being in that torqued position. While doing the movement with the barbell on my back, I was kind of falling forward. I could feel myself kind of, forcing myself into the bottom range of motion of that squat. It just wasn't super comfortable and natural to me. And again, everyone is gonna have a different comfortability with the squat pattern, especially the barbell. But for me, it just doesn't feel that natural, which is great for the belt squat because the belt squat really alleviates a lot of those concerns because I don't have a bar on my back, my upper body is free to do other things, notably hold on and provide stability and remove the mobility component of the barbell squat. Because belt squat, I now can hold on, I can adjust my torso however I need to, I can shift the load forwards or backwards on my feet, I can figure out where feels the most comfortable with my feet position, with my stance width, with my external rotation of my feet, and I can do all of these things actually in real time because I'm holding on and because I'm controlling much more of the movement. And the absolute biggest differentiating factor between belt squats and barbell squats is going to be that axial loading, right? So whereas barbell back squats, incredibly intense on the low back. It is great in a lot of ways because it strengthens your erectors, it forces you to control and brace your abs. You learn a lot of really good movement patterns and a lot of good habits from barbell back squats. And it, again, is more of a full body movement. Belt squats are phenomenal for allowing you to train your legs hard, train the squat pattern hard, but not worry about your low back. So I would never tell someone to do multiple hard sets close to failure of high reps on barbell back squats because the risk of losing your focus and tweaking your low back is always there because the bar is always axial loading. So you're always gonna have that stress on your spine. Belt squat, you could do multiple sets to failure with high reps because it's your legs that are the limiting factor rather than your low back or rather than your mobility. So much more crossover and so much more application is possible with belt squats versus barbell squats. Barbell squats, amazing movement for, again, full body strength, just general proprioception, understanding how to move your body in space, understanding how to control it, for pushing your range of motion, for coordination, all of those great things. Barbell squats are amazing and they are proven. Probably the most staple movement pattern that you see done in the gym, maybe even only behind bench press or something. But belt squats, in my opinion, I generally recommend over barbell squats, whether the goal is hypertrophy of the legs, whether the goal is even strength at this point, because I feel like my risk versus reward spectrum is just so tilted towards not getting injured. I would almost rather someone train hard on a belt squat, strengthen their abs and low back on something that's a bit more controllable. And again, for anybody who's working around an injury, who wants to be able to control more things within the squat pattern itself, belt squats are almost always going to be the preferred option. So both have their place. Definitely think that there is validity for programming barbell and belt squats. But I would say that for the majority of athletes, majority of clients, majority of trainees in general, once you have proficiency and you understand how to perform a barbell back squat, you could probably get more for your effort with a belt squat.